You're sitting across from someone who has spent years making you doubt yourself. They charm you, confuse you, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, they've trained you to question your every thought. You remember the nights you cried silently, the moments you hesitated to speak, fearing their reaction. And yet, today, something has shifted. You've been observing, learning, and quietly reclaiming your strength. You see the patterns, the manipulations, the subtle ways they try to bend reality to their will. And suddenly, in that moment of clarity, you realize something remarkable. You no longer need their permission to exist on your own terms. You don't need to explain yourself, justify your choices, or react to their provocations. You've taken your power back. And the truth is, sometimes a single sentence, carefully chosen and calmly delivered, can change everything. As one wise person once said, the moment you stop seeking approval from someone who can never give it, you become untouchable. When we talk about boundaries being power, it's not just a cliche, it's a fundamental truth, especially when dealing with someone who has narcissistic tendencies. A narcissist thrives on control. They are constantly testing the limits of what they can get away with, watching for any hint of hesitation, doubt, or insecurity. In their eyes, if you can be pushed, pulled, or manipulated, you exist to serve their needs. This makes boundaries more than a polite suggestion. They are the very line that separates your life, your emotions, and your choices from their influence. A boundary is not just a no or a rule you set for someone else. It's an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that your time, energy, and emotions are yours alone, and you will not surrender them simply because someone demands it. When a narcissist encounters a person with firm boundaries, it can feel like hitting a wall they cannot dismantle. Their usual tactics, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, or subtle manipulation, suddenly lose their impact. That's because boundaries are like armor. They protect you from their attempts to penetrate your emotional space. One of the most powerful aspects of boundaries is that they communicate value without being aggressive. You don't have to shout, threaten, or escalate. You simply state your limits in a calm, clear, and unwavering way. This is important because narcissists often thrive on emotional reactions. They are tuned to pick up fear, anger, confusion, or guilt. These reactions are like fuel for them. They energize their sense of control. But when a boundary is presented without emotion, without pleading or explanation, it denies them that fuel. Suddenly, the person they thought they could influence becomes a mystery. They are faced with someone who cannot be swayed by the usual tricks. Setting boundaries also serves a deeper psychological function for you. It trains your mind to recognize your own needs and to prioritize them. For years, many people in relationships with narcissists forget their own preferences, desires, and even values because they are constantly reacting to the narcissist's demands. Boundaries are a reclaiming of that lost self. When you verbalize them, you are not just stopping someone else. You are reinforcing your own sense of autonomy, and that autonomy is precisely what a narcissist fears the most. The beauty of boundaries lies in their simplicity and consistency. It doesn't have to be elaborate or repeatedly justified. A firm, single sentence that communicates a boundary can have more impact than pages of explanation. For instance, saying something like, "I will not discuss this further," or "I need space right now," sends a very clear message. It doesn't invite argument, it doesn't apologize, and it doesn't explain. This is important because narcissists often try to drag conversations into debate or drama. By keeping it simple and consistent, you remove the room for manipulation. Another subtle yet powerful element is timing and follow-through. Setting a boundary is not just about the words, it's about enforcing them. If you set limits and then waver at the first pushback, the narcissist reads that as weakness, and the power shifts back to them. But when boundaries are respected by your own consistent action, it creates a quiet but profound fear. They realize that no matter what tactics they try, there is a line they cannot cross. This fear is not about physical danger. It's about loss of control, which to a narcissist feels threatening. It's also essential to understand that boundaries are not a punishment or a weapon. They are a form of protection. When you set a boundary, you are not trying to hurt the narcissist, nor are you trying to teach them a lesson. You are simply signaling, in a way that cannot be ignored, that your life and your choices are yours to manage. And the more you practice this, the stronger your sense of self becomes. You start recognizing when your limits are being tested, when manipulation is creeping in, and when it's time to step back and reaffirm your autonomy. Ultimately, boundaries shift the dynamic. They take away the narcissist's illusion of power and replace it with your own clarity and confidence. Each time you assert a boundary calmly and firmly, you reinforce the idea that your life is not negotiable. You are no longer a source of easy control, and that realization can be profoundly unsettling for someone who thrives on dominance and influence. When we say that awareness is disarming, we are talking about a subtle but profound shift in how you interact with someone who exhibits narcissistic behavior. Narcissists rely heavily on secrecy, ambiguity, and the assumption that they are the only ones seeing the game. They manipulate situations, twist words, and quietly test boundaries because they believe their tactics will go unnoticed. The moment you become aware of their patterns, strategies, and intentions, you remove the element of surprise. This awareness changes the dynamic entirely. Being aware doesn't mean you have to confront every manipulation or call out every lie immediately. In fact, doing so aggressively often plays into the drama that narcissists thrive on. Awareness is internal first. It's about observing and understanding their behavior without being emotionally hijacked by it. When you recognize the subtle ways they try to control or provoke you, you gain clarity. That clarity creates a shield because you no longer react automatically. You start to see situations for what they are rather than what the narcissist wants you to believe. Narcissists fear being seen for who they truly are. They depend on illusion, the carefully constructed image of charm, competence, or superiority. They rely on others to fill in the gaps they cannot maintain themselves. When you demonstrate awareness, even quietly, you signal that you see beyond the illusion. You understand the patterns, and you are not deceived by appearances. That perception can trigger a deep, unsettling fear because it challenges their ability to control the narrative. The one thing they dread more than confrontation is being silently understood and unmoved. Awareness also allows you to anticipate their moves without getting drawn into their tactics. Narcissists often use classic strategies, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, projection, to manipulate others into doubt, shame, or compliance. Once you are aware of these tactics, you can recognize them instantly. You see the attempt before it takes root, which means you can respond calmly or choose not to respond at all. That non-reactive stance is deeply threatening to a narcissist because it denies them the feedback they need to feel powerful. When their usual tactics fail, they feel exposed, and exposure is something they fear intensely. It's important to understand that awareness is a form of power that does not rely on aggression or confrontation. You do not need to verbally accuse, shame, or debate the narcissist. Simply knowing what is happening, holding your center, and acting with discretion is enough. Narcissists often underestimate the quiet power of someone who understands them fully, but chooses not to play into their drama. That silent, informed presence communicates a kind of authority that can be far more unsettling than any argument or shouting match. Awareness also protects you emotionally. Narcissists feed on confusion, self-doubt, and guilt. They thrive on making you question your reality. When you are aware of their tactics, you no longer get lost in the emotional fog they create. You start to separate your own feelings from the manipulations being directed at you. This separation is vital because it gives you freedom. You no longer feel compelled to fix, explain, or appease. You act with intentionality rather than reaction, and this intentionality communicates strength in a way that narcissists instinctively fear. Another subtle but important aspect of awareness is that it allows you to set boundaries more effectively. When you can recognize patterns and predict likely behaviors, you can preemptively decide how to respond. This forethought prevents you from being caught off guard, which is exactly what a narcissist hopes for. They are most comfortable when they can create chaos and uncertainty. Awareness removes that comfort. It signals that you are no longer a passive participant in their games, and that realization can be deeply unnerving for them. Awareness also means recognizing the emotional and psychological dynamics at play without personalizing them. A narcissist's manipulations are not about you. They are about their need for control and validation. When you internalize this perspective, you protect yourself from taking their behavior personally. This detachment doesn't make you cold or distant, it simply makes you unshakable, and nothing frightens a narcissist more than someone who cannot be shaken, someone who sees clearly and remains unaffected. Finally, awareness opens the door to freedom. It allows you to make choices based on reality rather than manipulation. You regain control over your actions, your words, and your emotional space. This regained control is a powerful, silent force. A narcissist senses it instinctively. They may not be able to articulate why they feel unsettled, but they know that the usual levers of influence no longer work. That quiet, calm strength, rooted in simple awareness, is often more terrifying to them than confrontation because it cannot be bargained with, manipulated, or exploited. Emotional neutrality is one of the most powerful tools you can have when dealing with a narcissist, and yet it is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean becoming cold, robotic, or detached from your own feelings. Instead, it's about maintaining a calm and centered presence in situations where a narcissist expects chaos, drama, or an overreaction. Narcissists are trained observers of emotion. They read every inflection, every hesitation, every sign of doubt, and they use it to manipulate, control, and provoke. When you stop providing the emotional reactions they crave, the dynamic changes immediately. Narcissists thrive on emotional energy because it is their lifeblood. They create tension and then feed off the responses they elicit. If you respond with anger, guilt, shame, or panic, they feel validated and in control. Emotional neutrality, on the other hand, is like turning off the lights in a room. They suddenly have nothing to feed on. A calm, measured response signals to them that you are not a source of energy for their manipulation. This can trigger confusion, discomfort, and even fear because their usual methods are no longer effective. Practicing emotional neutrality requires a shift in perspective. It starts with recognizing that the narcissist's behavior is not truly about you. Their provocations are about their need for dominance, admiration, or control. Once you internalize this, it becomes easier to maintain a neutral stance. You can witness their tactics without internalizing them. This does not make you passive. Rather, it makes you strategic. You are no longer a participant in their emotional games, but an observer who responds intentionally, not reflexively. Another key aspect of emotional neutrality is the tone of your communication. You can be firm, assertive, and clear without raising your voice, showing frustration, or apologizing unnecessarily. A sentence delivered with calm confidence has a weight that is often more unsettling to a narcissist than anger or aggression. They are used to people reacting strongly, begging for approval, or arguing their point. When your words are steady and your delivery is controlled, it signals that you are not susceptible to their manipulations. This quiet, unwavering presence communicates strength and stability, which is something narcissists fear because it cannot be easily controlled. Emotional neutrality also creates space for your own power. When you are not reacting impulsively to a narcissist's provocations, you retain the ability to think clearly and act strategically. You can set boundaries, make decisions, and respond in ways that align with your values rather than being swept into reactive chaos. This kind of clarity is deeply disarming to a narcissist. They rely on confusion and uncertainty to maintain their sense of control, and when you operate from a place of calm awareness, you remove the tools they use to dominate you. It's important to note that emotional neutrality is not about suppressing your feelings permanently. It's about choosing when and how to express them in a way that does not give the narcissist leverage. You may feel anger, frustration, or sadness, but you can acknowledge those emotions internally without letting them dictate your outward response. This is an act of self-mastery, and narcissists recognize this mastery even when it is subtle. They sense that their usual levers, provocation, guilt, or shame, are no longer effective, and that realization can provoke anxiety or fear. Consistency is crucial. Emotional neutrality works best when it becomes your default mode of interaction. If you vacillate between calm and reactive responses, the narcissist will exploit the inconsistency. Over time, consistent neutrality establishes a pattern. They learn that you are not easily influenced, that your reactions are predictable and measured, and that attempts to provoke drama are futile. This predictability is powerful because it shifts the balance of control back to you, even without confrontation or aggression. One of the most liberating aspects of emotional neutrality is that it creates psychological freedom. Narcissists often attempt to manipulate not only situations, but also your perception of reality. Gaslighting and other tactics aim to make you doubt your instincts and feelings. When you respond from a place of neutrality, you are better able to assess situations clearly and maintain your own sense of truth. This clarity is threatening to a narcissist because it exposes their tactics without the need for argument, accusation, or conflict. Ultimately, emotional neutrality is a silent, formidable form of power. It denies the narcissist the reactions they crave, it protects your emotional space, and it reinforces your authority without aggression. It is not about winning fights or proving a point. It is about reclaiming control over your own mind, your own reactions, and your own life. And when a narcissist realizes that the usual levers they have relied upon no longer work, that subtle, unwavering calm can inspire a kind of fear that is deeper than confrontation. It is the fear of losing control over someone they believed they could dominate. Self-sufficiency is one of the most subtle yet powerful ways to unsettle a narcissist. At its core, it's about showing that your life, your choices, and your sense of well-being do not depend on their approval or validation. Narcissists thrive on dependency. They seek people who need them, who crave their attention, and who rely on their judgment or affection. When they encounter someone who is self-sufficient, someone who can thrive independently of their influence, it undermines the foundation of control they rely on. Being self-sufficient does not mean you are isolated or unwilling to engage with others. It simply means that your happiness, your confidence, and your decisions are grounded in your own sense of reality rather than in someone else's approval. When a narcissist realizes that they cannot manipulate your emotions or dictate your choices, it creates a deep, often invisible unease. They sense that they are no longer indispensable, and that is exactly what makes them uncomfortable. Self-sufficiency is demonstrated not just through actions, but also through subtle cues in communication and behavior. When you make decisions without seeking permission, when you express your opinions confidently without fear of disapproval, and when you engage with the world from a position of independence, the narcissist notices. They are constantly scanning for weakness, for uncertainty, for the signs that they can pull someone into their orbit. When those signs are absent, they feel exposed and, in a sense, powerless. One of the key aspects of self-sufficiency is financial, emotional, and psychological independence. A narcissist often tries to create reliance in one or more of these areas because it gives them leverage. If they can influence your finances, they have power over choices and lifestyle. If they control your emotional responses, they can shape your decisions and reactions. And if they dominate your psychological space, they can manipulate how you see yourself and the world. By cultivating self-sufficiency, you remove these points of leverage, leaving the narcissist with little they can control. Self-sufficiency also communicates confidence without arrogance. You do not need to boast or challenge the narcissist directly. Simply living your life in a way that is centered on your own capabilities sends a clear message. Your world does not revolve around them. Narcissists are acutely sensitive to this because it threatens their sense of importance. They are used to being at the center of attention, at the center of influence. And when they realize that someone else's focus and energy are not tied to them, it creates unease. Importantly, self-sufficiency allows you to navigate interactions without being emotionally hijacked. Narcissists often attempt to provoke guilt, shame, or anxiety to gain compliance. When you are self-sufficient, these tactics have limited effect. You have internal resources, confidence, clarity, and self-trust that allow you to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. The narcissist notices this stability. They sense that their usual tools are ineffective and that subtle, silent acknowledgement of independence can provoke fear or frustration. Self-sufficiency also fosters resilience. When you rely on your own judgment and emotional strength, you are less likely to be swayed by manipulation or deception. Narcissists often test boundaries repeatedly, hoping to find cracks. If they see that you have built a foundation that cannot easily be shaken, they understand that their influence is diminished. That realization is deeply unsettling because it strips away the sense of control that narcissists depend on to maintain dominance. Another important element is the quiet, consistent demonstration of competence and self-reliance. Narcissists are often attuned to inconsistencies, hesitations, or vulnerabilities. When they see someone who consistently acts with independence, handles challenges effectively, and maintains composure under pressure, they experience a subtle threat. Their usual strategies, intimidation, manipulation, or charm, lose their impact. The narcissist may respond with attempts to regain control, but often they are confronted with an unyielding presence that cannot be swayed easily. Ultimately, self-sufficiency is not about winning or defeating the narcissist. It is about reclaiming your life, your choices, and your inner power. It signals that your sense of worth is grounded in yourself, not in the approval of someone who seeks to control or dominate. This kind of autonomy is profoundly disarming to a narcissist because it removes the very leverage they rely on. The more you embody self-sufficiency in thought, action, and emotion, the more they realize that their influence over you is limited and that quiet recognition is often more intimidating than confrontation itself. Accountability is one of the most subtle but powerful ways to shift the dynamic with a narcissist. Narcissists are masters at avoiding responsibility. They rarely acknowledge mistakes or admit when they have hurt someone. Instead, they deflect, blame, or rewrite reality to protect their image. When you communicate accountability, not in anger or accusation, but as a calm, firm expectation, you disrupt this pattern. You signal that actions have consequences and that their usual evasion tactics will not work with you. When you hold a narcissist accountable, it does not mean attacking or shaming them. Confrontation often feeds their drama and gives them an emotional reaction to manipulate. True accountability is quiet and firm. It is a statement that you will not tolerate deception, manipulation, or disregard for your boundaries. By establishing this expectation, you remove ambiguity about your limits. Narcissists rely on ambiguity and uncertainty to control others, and clarity around accountability strips them of that power. One of the most effective aspects of accountability is its predictive nature. When a narcissist realizes that certain behaviors will be noticed and addressed, it changes their approach. They understand that they cannot act without repercussion, even if the repercussion is as simple as you disengaging, calmly stating your boundary, or refusing to participate in the drama. This knowledge creates a quiet fear because the narcissist thrives on a sense of impunity, the idea that they can act without consequence. Accountability denies them that impunity. Accountability also protects your own emotional and psychological space. Narcissists often try to make you question your reality, guilt you into compliance, or manipulate your sense of fairness. When you operate from a place of accountability, you separate their behavior from your self-worth. You see the actions for what they are and assert the standards you will not compromise. This clarity is empowering. It allows you to respond to behavior rather than react to manipulation, which is precisely what unnerves a narcissist. A critical element of accountability is consistency. If a narcissist notices that certain behaviors are sometimes overlooked or excused, they will exploit those gaps. But when you consistently uphold the consequences of their actions without drama, without aggression, it establishes a predictable pattern that they cannot easily manipulate. The narcissist begins to realize that their usual tactics, which may have worked on others, will not work with you. That realization can provoke anxiety, frustration, and fear because it undermines the sense of control they depend upon. Accountability is also about setting expectations clearly and firmly. Narcissists often test boundaries repeatedly to see if you will enforce them. By stating your expectations and calmly following through when they are violated, you send a message that you are not a passive participant in their manipulations. You are present, aware, and empowered. This presence is not aggressive. It is simply an acknowledgement that your well-being, your time, and your emotions are valuable and will be protected. One subtle but profound way accountability works is by making the narcissist aware that they are being observed, understood, and assessed. Narcissists fear exposure more than confrontation. When they sense that someone is keeping track of their actions, recognizing patterns, and holding them responsible without needing to argue or escalate, it threatens their sense of control. They realize that they can no longer operate freely in the shadows of manipulation, and that awareness alone is intimidating. Accountability also communicates self-respect. It tells the narcissist that you value yourself enough not to tolerate mistreatment. You do not need to punish or demean them. You simply maintain your standards and enforce boundaries in a steady, composed manner. Narcissists are used to encountering people who will bend, excuse, or justify their behavior. When faced with someone who enforces accountability calmly, they are confronted with a type of strength they cannot easily intimidate or circumvent. Importantly, accountability is empowering because it shifts responsibility back to the narcissist for their own choices. You are not responsible for their actions, their feelings, or their reactions. By consistently practicing accountability, you reclaim agency over your life. The narcissist, who is accustomed to projecting responsibility onto others, experiences a subtle but real fear. They recognize that their usual tactics cannot force compliance or control you. Ultimately, accountability is a quiet, assertive form of power. It communicates boundaries, enforces consequences, and reinforces self-respect without aggression or drama. It takes away the narcissist's ability to act without consideration and subtly undermines their sense of dominance. When a narcissist realizes that their actions are observed, understood, and met with predictable consequences, that quiet, unwavering standard of accountability can create a fear that is deeper and more enduring than confrontation. It is the fear of losing the control they have always relied upon. Conciseness and clarity are deceptively powerful tools when interacting with a narcissist. These individuals often thrive in confusion, ambiguity, and overcomplicated conversations. They manipulate through wordplay, half-truths, and distractions, relying on others to fill in gaps or over-explain themselves. A simple, clear, and direct sentence can immediately disrupt that dynamic. It leaves no room for misinterpretation, no loopholes to exploit, and no opportunity for manipulation. In essence, conciseness and clarity strip away the control that ambiguity provides them. Being concise does not mean being abrupt or rude. It means expressing your point in a way that is straightforward and firm. For example, rather than explaining or justifying your decision repeatedly, you can simply state your boundary or position in one clear sentence. This communicates confidence and control. Narcissists are accustomed to people rambling, over-explaining, or trying to justify themselves in order to be accepted. When they encounter brevity paired with authority, it can be disorienting because it denies them the drama and the back and forth they rely on. Clarity works hand in hand with conciseness. It's not just about saying less, it's about saying exactly what you mean with precision and leaving no room for interpretation. When a narcissist tries to twist words or reinterpret meaning, a clear statement acts as a barrier. There is no ambiguity to exploit, no subtlety to manipulate. You are, in effect, reclaiming the narrative. Clarity signals that you understand your own mind, your needs, and your boundaries. Narcissists fear people who can see their patterns clearly and respond intentionally because it threatens their ability to control the story.